What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Bucket, how was your week, buddy?
Man, I feel like we were just sitting here talking to Wi-Fi, and it's been a full week already. So it was short, but that's a good thing in my days. Sometimes these days drag on.
You're not. You're telling me something I already know. I mean, after that conversation with Wi-Fi last week, I haven't had a chance to go back and listen to it, but he shared so much good knowledge with us that I still need to go back and redigest everything that he told us from that perspective that he has as a coach who's coached in 3 different regions.
Yeah, it was a great conversation with Wi-Fi, and again, I like hearing the perspectives of people that I normally want to get to talk to in my everyday life. And an 18-year-old who has that much experience and also just had that head on his shoulders was unbelievable just to sit down and chat with him. So if you haven't checked that one out, go ahead and check that VOD, but you definitely would be missing out if you don't.
I agree 100%. Navy Walrus, I am sorry if you're cutting into your Amaranth hot tub streams. We got important things to talk about because today we have a TorDad Rocket League player, the host of some of the best Rocket League watch parties around, a University of Vermont graduate, and a creator of a world champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TorDad.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for that intro.
Dude, TorDad, it is awesome to have you up here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. Doing well.
So, the first thing we like to talk about with people, what is your story around Rocket League? What got you into it? Was it all Torment, or did you help bring him to the scene?
Actually, it's a little different than that. I think there was the PS3, and when you had the PS Plus or whatever it was, you had free games.
Yeah.
And the Supersonic Rocket Battle cards came out. I was like, let's download this. This is a cool game for me and my son to play together co-op. I mean, I want to say he's 8 years old maybe at the time. So we played that for a while, but I actually was the one to download it. So that's how we started playing it. And obviously he had already started getting good at it. It was interesting because, I mean, the maps and everything were very different then, but it was cool. And then I think what happened was, we played it for a while, stopped playing it. He kept playing it, and I wish we both continued because we would have had all the Alpha Boost stuff and everything because all the people that stuck with it got to get it. So, but yeah, that's how it started.
That's crazy that you guys played Starp. Someone was asking me about that game, and I around. So I joined the PlayStation Plus when it was Rocket League, and the people that were on SARP were just so much better. Like you said, the people who played it the whole time. But just knowing about the game at that time was probably just so much fun with the relaxed atmosphere and playing it with your 8-year-old. I'm looking for games right now to play with 7-year-old. So that would have been such a blast. I can just imagine.
Yeah. And then a strange thing happened. So my son always played. He played Little League, and then he was playing high school baseball. Pretty good. And he was in his freshman year. And I noticed he started not doing as well, and I didn't really know why, and he didn't want to tell, but he started losing interest in baseball because that's when he started getting to Rocket League. In season 1, he actually was on a team, and the first season of Rocket League, they had a split season, actually, kind of like they do now. And they didn't play in the first split, but they played the second split, and they actually had enough points to qualify if they'd only played the first one to actually go to the first playoffs, that were out in LA, actually. That's how well they did.
Oh, wow. So, I mean,
and he told me at the end. I didn't even know.
I think there's a lot of parents that are running into that now. What was that like as a parent who, at that time, traditional sports were really still the mainstream, right? And now your kid is showing you this new venture. So, did you have reservations about it, or were you just like, oh, let's go for it, kid, just go all out?
No, I didn't have reservations, but what I had was, he was in travel baseball, and I don't know if you guys know about, but travel sports is money.
Yep.
So it was ridiculous. And we had already committed to like a down payment. So we basically lost that. So I was a little upset at first, to be honest, but not because I didn't want him to do it. I was just like, I wish you had told me a little earlier, but we got past that. And, for the second season, he was like, Dad, this is when I started watching it and seeing how they were casting, and I was like, oh my God, this is like ESPN. They got a desk in front of him and stuff on Twitch. But he's like, I might have to go to Amsterdam. So I was like, well, if that's the case, we need to get a passport now.
That's forward thinking for you, because I know there's a lot of parents out here that wouldn't even think about that.
Yeah, and the thing is that they actually got beat in the playoffs, like last game, overtime, I believe. And it was against Rizzo's team. It was Rizzo, I think Hot Wheels Sid, and I forget the third player, but they just lost that. Yes, that was who they were. Take 3. So. And we almost went.
You for it though, having him in baseball beforehand, because I played sports too my whole life, and baseball was my number one. But travel ball, all that stuff. If I pivoted to, this was not obviously an option, but to something like this, then you as a parent probably were able to pivot just as easily.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't hurt him that I was already a gamer. You know, I've played video games my whole life also, so that helped out in that sense. And yeah, and actually, because he was a pitcher in baseball, I actually felt that it helped him out in like the spotlight type of stuff. Like I used to tell him, think about it. As a pitcher, now you didn't have hundreds of people there or thousands, but you still had 9 players on each team, the bench, you had umpires, you had coaches, you had parents that were there. So you had 50 people maybe watching, and they're waiting to see what you're going to do on the pitcher's mound. So it was all eyes on you. So I told him to just take that energy and keep that same thing, especially when you were at land. I actually suggested him sit in the middle of Cloud 9 in the beginning. I felt that helped center them better.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because it sounds like, and I don't know the background of a lot of the other pro players, but him having that background, I think I would almost venture to say a lot of them don't have that, because whether you're playing baseball or, for me, it was basketball. So when you're on the free throw line and you got to hit these 2 free throws and everybody's looking at you, like, that's a different type of pressure. And that's something that I feel like a lot of the new 15-year-olds, they probably don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. I think some of the older guys definitely probably play sports that are out of there, but these younger kids like Daniel and stuff, I don't know. Maybe they do. There actually could be some soccer going on. I think that's one of the bigger sports, or lacrosse or something. But I know
crossover sport.
I know. I want to say I thought that Beast Mode might have been playing, because he's still in high school. So there's a bunch of these players that are still in high school. So all these lands and stuff, they got to get time off for.
Yeah, what's that like as a
permission slips?
Yeah, what's that like as trying to manage that for a kid, especially because he was younger when they were starting to do lands and whatnot. So, what were some of the things that you had to think about that no one else is really paying attention to?
Right. Well, obviously for school, they need to keep their grades up. And one of the biggest things he liked to do, and it's all of them, they like to stay up very late. And you got to go to school the next morning. I mean, he would be up at 2:00 in the morning on a school night, and I'm like, that really can't happen. I mean, you're getting up for school, and you gotta keep a grade at least. You know, you got to keep a certain amount of a grade. We're not going to let you carry D's and just get by or anything. You know, we expect still good grades and stuff. And me and his mother were divorced, so he would stay at both houses back and forth. So we had to balance that too which house he was at. But I could tell you, when he was at my house, I used to have the internet cut off at certain times. So you go, 2:00 in the morning, it's cut off. You're not going on no more, and he had to deal with it. So, but it was a little bit of a balance, and again, the travel stuff, you just have to get your schoolwork in advance or whatever and try to get that going, and then just go. And the thing about Rocket League, and that's still happening now, is that if the kid is under 18, he needs a guardian to travel, which is a great thing because they pay for you too. And you're just treated like a player. Your flight's taken care of, your hotel, all the food, everything. You got all access everywhere. So it's really nice. I did that for a while. I like that. Went to London that way and a couple other places.
Wow. That's what was my next question, was like, how your young kid traveling to other places or needing to be somewhere for a tournament. And it sounds like the organization, is that what took care of that stuff? Or
it's when it's Psionics. Psionics takes care of all travel stuff.
Really?
Yeah, like the dream hacks, the org takes care of, but anything like all this right now, all the land that's going on out in LA, that's all psionics. That's all through there. They hire. They used to hire a woman. Her name was Kim, but I talked to her because I was wanted to find out if she was doing it this one, and she said that they picked somebody else. But up until then, they had her, and again, it was like a big family. They'd reach out, and the things that you don't think about what they provide. She would have people there that could massage the kids' hands if they had cramps. If one kid had a headache, they'd run to the store, they'd get aspirin. I mean, they were treated like rock stars.
I heard that on Rizzo's podcast, and they were talking about Garrett G. Him and Sis were going back and forth because then they tell a little story about Garrett G. When they lost to Take 3, their org. The person who's in charge of that org at the time was like, "Don't you guys have any like set plays that you can do like basketball?" And he's like, "No."
Right.
And they wanted to cut their pay right then and there. So,
yeah,
oh, Lord, imagine.
But yeah, the travel was interesting. Like I said, it was cool too. You know, we arrive at an airport and we're walking, and there'd be like a sign up with our last name, and we'd get into like a black SUV, and they drive us to our hotel. I'm like, this is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're not going to get that treatment in travel baseball. That's for sure.
No,
all the money goes to the org.
With the kids these days, they have to learn. Like I'd say to my son, okay, I don't know nothing right now. I want you to lead the way in the airport, because I know at some point he was going to have to do this on his own. And they're just in their phone. I'm like, you just walked by the guy that had the sign up for our car like twice now. I did, he goes. I said, yeah. You got to stop looking at your phone and pay. So it was also, I tried to teach him. I wanted to teach him because I knew he'd be on his own at some point. And that was a scary thing. Your kid's 18 and a half years old, and you can't travel, say, to Madrid this time. And so they're flying them out there. So the best you can do is drop them off at the airport, because they go a week earlier than when you go to watch them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you did it right. I don't know. I mean, I know my parents had me flying on airplanes by myself when I was like 12 years old, going up and see different family and whatnot. But I know a lot of people, like, they never get on an airplane until they're 18 or in their 20s, and then they're walking around going, I don't know where to go. And it's like, this is easy.
Yeah, that's definitely. But yeah, so like I said, he's definitely, he's a seasoned traveler, and he's seen a lot of the world at a young age. That's something that, most kids don't get to do. So very happy for him on that.
Wow. Totally. That's just unbelievable that he's been able to grow from you downloading a game randomly when he's to traveling the world playing this game all by himself and getting to essentially make a whole lifetime worth of memories.
Right.
And what would you say, like, that makes you the most proud of the accomplishments that he's done? Is there something more like that? Like he's traveled and we love that he's doing all this stuff, or he's winning?
Yeah, I think it's all of it. I think it's the experience, and then the way he composes himself. And like when they were in Vegas and they won the whole thing, and he was the MVP. And that was the last person on the team that anyone would have thought, and how he just rose up to the occasion on that weekend. And one of the other things is, early on in C9, Squishy and Gimmick, neither one of them wanted to do an interview. If you go back, you notice it's always been my son that did the interview. So it gave him a lot of experience in that. And I actually we would pretend interview kind of, and I'd ask some questions. I said, I know you're not going to want to have set things all the time, but here's some things so you're not going like as you're live, so you can kind of go have things to say as you're thinking at least. And in the beginning, you could watch him. You can notice his eyes, like he kind of almost like look up, like he was thinking of what he's doing. And then as you went on, you see that disappear. And that's another experience that you can't get without having to do that. And think about it. You're in a stadium of, even if it's only 8,000 people there that are actually, all waiting to hear what you're going to say. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Cause how old were they? How old was he when they won the world championship in Vegas?
At the most 18.
Okay. That's still like majority of 18-year-olds. They've never had to do that. And like you said, that whole of him looking up, and I know from some things I've learned that, yeah, that's a telltale sign when someone is trying to think of what to say, they start looking elsewhere. But yeah, the fact that he's grown and gotten comfortable with it, that is awesome. So right now with the team and where they're at, Does it feel like a burden has kind of been taken off him with Calm? Because it feels like Calm's really stepped into that role a lot. Very smooth.
So I think I'm gonna do a quick little, not go too much into it. So at the end of Cloud, what I'm saying is at the end of Cloud 9, if you anyone that followed it, sorry, that's the dogs. They've tried to get rid of my son twice. Okay, and I always felt that he stayed there, but I just feel like it wasn't a good we're on a team and you guys are trying to get rid of me, but now I'm here. How do I trust you? How do we still team? And you could tell they never played the same anymore. Like that was one of the kind of things.
Right.
Because I don't trust, like, you guys aren't talking behind my back. So there was all that. And then, Squishy left because C9 decided to get out of the game. And that wasn't because of them. That was just because they felt like Sonics wasn't doing enough to make the orgs actually start making money. So C9 said, we're going to move to the side and let them go. Squishy obviously went to NRG. And Gimmick and my son, they actually went together. And I personally, and again, it's nothing against Gimmick or anything. He's a good kid. He's a good player. I just felt that was never going to work. And even in version 1, they talked about replacing him or AXB at first, and it went to AXB. And I was just like, I'm done with this. I told my son, I said, you should just leave. And obviously he's stuck, and I'm glad, because when Khan came along, and now with Beast Mode, I just feel like that's a team right now. And they're just starting to gel. Like, and you could see this last regional, how they played. So
that's a great segue into one of our next questions. Was there a doubt that V1 wasn't going to come to this major? Like, when you saw this team come together and, like you just said, they just started gelling and things started happening, did you just know, like, man, they're going to win?
Yeah, I mean, my expectation definitely was that they had enough. As long as they could get it going quick enough, they have enough as a team now to compete with any of those teams at any time. And Fireburner, his job is just to make sure the team is making the adjustments needed. And I feel like he's more than capable of doing that. So when they're doing that all together, and obviously, they called it the buff one because they were all boot camp, and they call it the boot camp buff, but they all got to play at the headquarters of V1, and it showed.
No, that 100% showed. Yeah. So, and I kind of had a question about that, because I think I had talked to you through your stream one day about, that was something that kind of fell off with COVID. That wasn't really happening as much. And the fact that I think V1 showed that it does work. Have you heard any rumblings? I know you're in on the scene of possibly orgs trying to go back to that.
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now, pretty much almost every EU team's already here. If you talk to some of the pros, you'll hear right now they're excited because ranked is the best there is, because you got all the EU pros in here and everything else. So, and you got, I believe, the OCE teams are here and stuff. So you get a lot of for major things, most teams will do a boot camp. I don't think my son and them are not going until next week just because they're already here.
Right. But maybe does V1 see for like regionals, they could keep doing the boot camping and playing up in Minnesota?
I'll be surprised in the spring if we don't see them boot camp again.
Okay. I would agree, because it worked very well for them.
Yeah. And then if they go to the next major and it's in wherever that's not in the United States, I would think that you'll see them go out there a little early. It's just also just to help with the jet lag, the time change, also.
Yeah, I know that's a concern. Johnny Boy brought that up for Sandrock coming over, because they do have one of the longer travels. So hopefully they're here early and getting themselves adjusted.
Exactly.
But that is going to be rough. Also wondering, what is something that I know you told us you're not sure if you're going to be able to make it to LAN, but when you were going to the LANs, what was something that you really looked forward to? Was it seeing like Papa Rizzo and all the other dads there, or was it just being there and experiencing it?
It's definitely hanging out with some of the parents. Besides, I mean, I actually talk to a lot of the players and stuff. I like, talking with them and everything. But actually, Garrett G's dad and J-Nap's dad were the two I hung out with the most at a lot of the lands. Like, it was just us three always together and stuff. And Gimmick's dad would be there too. But and then Papa Rizzo, me and him, we didn't really start hanging out until the last couple. I don't know. We either never seen each other or whatever it was, or just were in different spots. But like I said, it was Garrett G's dad, who's really cool, and so is Janev's dad. They're really cool to get. We'd have a real good time, go and hang out after and stuff. In London, we were all just going all over the place together, like in between on the off days and stuff, and during the day. So
that sounds like so much fun. I get everything that you're saying about how you've helped your kid like get to this point, or the behind the scenes stuff. Like when you're talking about going to the airport, I'm imagining helping my kid learn how to ride his bike to school by himself, like how difficult that is, but how, as a parent, how satisfying that is. Have you had a moment where you're like, he's gone, I did my job correctly, what would you have done different, or how do you feel about like how he went into everything?
No, I think everything went pretty well. Actually, I don't know if I do anything really that much different. I think the only real blemish he ever had was the first time that they were, I think it was for season 3. It was him, Squishy, and Lichinio. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, I remember Lichinio.
Yep. And so they went to the qualifiers, and they got beat by the team that they ended up using the name STD, it was called. Which was a terrible initials because
yeah, right.
But anyways, they weren't supposed to lose, and they never made it to that land. And then that's when Lichinio got kicked off the team, and that's how they picked up Gimmick. But anyways, right after they lost, my son went on to Twitter to say, "This sucks. Can't win if your teammates don't want to practice." And I was like, you can't put your guys out there, even though if it's true. And he's like, well, and I deleted it. And I was like, yeah, but watch. And like 100 screenshots were all over Reddit, because that's all. No matter how fast you delete it, once it's there, people find it. Yep. So he learned a lesson early on, which is good, that if you are upset, calm down before you even think about typing anything. And is it even worth it? So that was the only real thing that he did that kind of, but he did it early, so he learned. So I was glad.
No, that's a good life lesson. Like a good
kid, right?
Yeah. I got to be honest with you. All these orgs should have like a PR person that these kids should have to run their tweets through that are going to be about RLCS and about what they're doing on the team before it goes out there, because there's some really dumb stuff that's said sometimes.
So they're still not doing that? Because I remember asking Ron about that, and he said, yeah, at the beginning, like the kids had no help whatsoever, but now the orgs are starting to bring that in. But from what you just said,
not for making sure kids don't tweet or anything. No, not
okay.
Really. I think
maybe
they do have like a mental health person and stuff.
Like a team mom, maybe too. I know a lot of sports have that.
And the coaches really aren't there to do anything besides. Most of them aren't actually coaching the players, because most of the players are better when you think about that. They're there to really do logistics when they're at lands and stuff, and also they're the ones that really just schedule all their actual scrims and stuff. So.
Well, like we had Wi-Fi on last week. Wi-Fi, he's very intelligent after we talked to him, but at the end of the day, he is 18. He's still learning some life lessons too, as he told us. So I can only imagine some of these younger coaches that these orgs are bringing in. It's not really that role model that you would think that a traditional coach would be.
Right. No, it's not. It's not at all. It's more, like I said, it's more almost, and they were called in the beginning managers, like Jazzo for G2, he was a manager. And then they kind of started calling people coaches when you had people like Fireburner and Sizz and stuff, because they were players also.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think overall, they're more manager and stuff than coach. Now they will look over replays and let the team know like tendencies of the other teams that they may or may have to watch out for. So other than that, I think that's their biggest roles, though. Really, at least that's what I have experienced with what Fireburner does.
Oh, that's awesome. What was the like one thing that Torment did that for you just like sparked that said that this was going to be it? This is something, like he has something here and he needs to run with it.
I think it was just the teams he was on and just seeing how they were being successful. I mean, again, it used to be fun. I think it was there sometimes were Tuesdays, but there was a lot of Thursday night tournaments. All these teams, you got to remember, this first started. They're playing for $50 tournaments back then. On a Thursday night, you'd have which was like they were called Genesis or whatever. It was like Garrett G and a bunch. And my son's team, Lacino and Squishy, and you had like a G2 and stuff. And they're all playing. You had like 8-10 teams that would start at like, say, 7 o'clock, go to 11 o'clock at night. And they're all playing. And at the end of it was $50. But that's all you had besides RLCS seasons and stuff. So it was pretty wild. But you'd see. So when they became with Lacino and Squishy and my son, all of a sudden they started beating all the teams. And I was like, okay. They're and then they came up with saying, he's like the third man. I mean, he was really good at saving and stuff, and that kind of was his role in the beginning when that was a role in Rocket League more.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Yeah, that's wild.
I've always thought that when it came to Torment, that's what's always stuck in the back of my brain. Like, you want somebody to model after that's gonna like really support the team and help keep you in a good position. That's always been Torment.
Right. And then Luchino and Squishy probably used the most boosts out of anyone. So he had to learn to play with hardly any boosts. And then it went right to gimmick, so it got no better.
Boost.
So he's learned to play without boost for a long time. So.
You always need that catch-all guy, and it sounds like Torment was that. No matter what they threw at him or what team people were able, he was able to pick up the pieces, and that's a baseball player in my opinion.
Right, and the other thing is I've always taught him about being humble and stuff, and he doesn't, he'll tell you, I think the last interview they had, he's like, I don't care if I score 0 goals. If our team won, that's what it's about. So, he's not going after, I need to be the guy that does 7 resets and scores 10 goals in a series and stuff, That's just not who he's going to be, and that's not how he's trying to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. So speaking back to what you were talking about, it sounded like the whole thing, Rocket League Championship Series, came from like pickup games for $50 to these $1 million crazy hundreds of $1,000 tournaments, and he made it there. What's some advice that you would give kids coming up now? I know it's a different time, or the families or parents or anyone who you can speak to of like what to expect going forward for these kids that are just starting out.
I mean, now it's a lot harder to obviously break in. Back then, you broke in and then you kind of kept the spot. Like you had to lose your spot the only way you could get out. So nowadays, really, and I actually hear some of the pros, even like people say, how do I get in there and stuff? It's basically playing 6-mans and getting known with people and maybe you're streaming so people can see and getting good enough where you get recognized. That's really the only way in a team, too, if you have 3 players that you all think that are good enough and get into the bubble tournaments and stuff and try to start making some noise really is how it's going to be done. And all I can say about parents, if your kid's going for it, you got to support them. The worst thing you can do is make them feel like they can't do it. I think in anything that, whether it's an esport or anything else in life anyways, I'm just very supportive. I actually have 2 sons and I support them both. It's just, I can't see doing it any other way, but I know there's people out there that tell, their kids they can't do things and stuff. So,
yeah, I'm hoping too from this latest, the whole pandemic, maybe people will come out of here realizing that things that you would normally do in person, you can do online now, and you should support those things. And maybe that's what that's what I got out of it, but I was already part of that generation.
I have a prediction that I would say probably in about 10 years, you're going to see a lot of traditional sports go on, and it's going to be esports. I mean, I see some of these traditional sports dying. I mean, baseball, you wanted to go on a lockout strike. See how many people start watching. I mean, it's going down, and as more people see an esport, and I'll tell you what's really going to do it, unfortunately, but is they're going to start having all the legal gambling stuff. When they start having esports, forget about it.
Oof.
It's going to get
popular. My Lord, I'll go bankrupt.
I mean, it really will. It'll just take off because it's an easy watch, and so people and the younger generations, they don't have the attention span, I believe, to sit down for 9 innings of baseball and all those type of things. They want things quick and fast. I mean, Rocket League, and you hear it now, I love it. I love it on the weekend when these tournaments going on. You hear these kids complain about, this is too long watching all this. I've been waiting for this because I used to hate one weekend you watch maybe 1 or 2 series and you had to wait the next week this is just was when it's happened, it's so much like, you know, and I like it. I like all the games.
Oh yeah, back when it was an actual season, and
Yeah.
like you said, it was two, 3 matches a week. What's something that you would, if you had a little bit of input to improve the scene, what is something you would throw in there?
I mean, the scene itself. What I'll tell you is something that I want to see Rocket League do is with the casters. Is I think that they should have a day, especially now. Like, so perfect example with the LAN. They should have a day where they get to sit with the players and interview them themselves to get questions. So when there's downtime in between games and stuff, instead of them kind of doing sometimes, I hate to say it, dumb stuff, they're talking about stuff that we really don't care. They can be like, hey, did you know that beast mode on his off time, he goes fishing, or what, you know, whatever it is. It's kind of like when you watch traditional sports and you hear the guys and they'll talk to you about other things the players are doing or whatever. I think that would help connect the whole thing a little bit better and give the casters a little bit more substance.
Oh, I agree. I think if they brought like the gold rush things that used to go on in like the middle of the year, they would do little things like that, and I think it definitely showed a little bit of a human side to the players that we don't usually get to see.
Yeah, I mean, the orgs do a little bit of, I like it with their content. I know V1, when they were up there doing the boot camp, I think they just released a video a couple days ago. They all made a painting of Firebird. It's pretty funny. So they do content and stuff, and that helps connect with the fans too.
Yes, I will have to go look at that. But as we get out of here, is there any last bit that you would like to say out there? Any plug you'd like to give out before we transition out of here?
I mean, no. I mean, except like you were saying, especially like, so if I don't go to LAN, I'll be doing a viewing party. So everyone wants to check it out and hang out. We have a lot of fun.
100%. Well, TorDad, we really appreciate you coming on tonight and just sharing that insight that we usually don't get to hear, and we hope to have you back another time.
Absolutely, guys. Anytime. It's my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Bucket.
Wow.
We talked to TorDad.
Awesome. That was amazing. Hearing the like behind the scenes parenting stuff just made me feel like some type of way. I don't even know how to describe. I have a kid who's now 7, he'll be 8 soon. So when he started touching on how he got him involved a little bit, didn't like be like, hey, here's a game. They just started playing together, and then he's already into video games. He's helping him like be a man and like here's how you travel, like let him take the reins a little bit, like just the parenting stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You can tell that probably helped make him the kind of person he is, which made him the player that he is, which helps the team win the last thing, the last regional we just watched. Like, it all matters. And being a father is one of those jobs that are thankless. Like, unless we were here asking these specific questions, no one's going to know that, right? Torment on his own is a great kid, but having his dad there to support him and do all those things is amazing.
You couldn't have said it any better. Oh, that's what stuck out to me the most, right? Was him talking about that the little things of, all right, we're walking through the airport. You're guiding me. My parents actually did that for me. And that, hey, where are we going? What do you mean, where are we going? I don't know what I'm doing. Well, you better figure it out. You at some point, you're going to have to do this on your own. Or even like, I remember my parents, and I've done it with my soon-to-be 5-year-old, we're driving home, and it's like, hey, where do I need to go? And he just being able to look and go, you need to go that way. Like, kids don't, I feel like a lot of kids these days don't think about things like that. And the fact that he took the time and was able to recognize that that's what he needed to do for his kid is huge and makes complete sense why he is the player that he is now.
Yeah. I mean, we heard 3 or 4 stories that maybe are just normal stories for them, but for us, it gave us a sneak peek behind the curtain, like the Twitter thing. Oh, yeah. Don't do that, kid. Learn from your mistakes quickly. All right, here we go. We are going to get a little blowback from this, but I know how to help hemorrhage that. And then other little things like that, and giving these like real life experience things to build off of to make him into, essentially a grown up and a man by himself. It's awesome to see, and what a great guy.
Well, and I
Couldn't
can
have had better examples.
no, that 100%. I didn't realize. I'd always kind of wondered what was a little bit of the drama with C9, and he sprinkled a little bit there for us. I never knew that they were trying to get rid of Torment. That just doesn't make sense in my brain. He was literally the rock of that team.
Yeah, but you're seeing that like now more and more, right? Where they're trying to figure out what piece do we keep, what piece do we get rid of to get our team right. And even in Major League Baseball, I think I just saw the Reds are like completely demolishing their team to get off contracts, to start over, maybe build around someone else. Like there's all these efforts that go into it. And when you're such a small knit group, the org is going to be the deciding factor, and that's really tough. But you're right. Torment was one of those guys who was a staple, and he was going to land on his feet. So it would have been really awful decision on their part if they just got rid of him.
Well, it almost makes you wonder if he did leave the org. I think that's an open realm of possibilities there, because Torment seems to be a player that has a lot of good relationships, which after talking with TorDad, it makes sense. He doesn't seem like a player or an individual that burns bridges. He learned very young that, you stick up for your teammates. You don't, even if they are not performing, don't air the dirty laundry for everybody else to see. Keep that internal and work on it. And oh my Lord, I can only imagine the combos we could have had.
Yeah, I know, right? That's any given Sunday at this point. It feels like anyone could do anything right now with their organization. But keeping the good teams and the good players in yours, that should be what they want to focus on. Not getting the new up and coming guys. And that's harder for these small teams, right? There's only 3 guys or an alternate and a coach or whatever. But when you're talking about a baseball team or something like that, or a basketball team, you have all these bench players, and you have players specifically tailored to make sure everyone does the right thing. A veteran who does someone who comes in, maybe not gets a lot of playing time, but gets all the young guys organized. Like when there's 3 people, you have to wear all those hats, and Torment wears a bunch of those about as good as anyone else.
He really does.
Attribute it to his father. I mean, I will praise fathers all day, not only because I am one, I'm friends with a lot, and I see how when you have someone who's backing you, helping you, getting you to that next level, then that just levels up like that kid 100%.
You want to hear a combo that TorDad just dropped me in Discord?
I do.
He said,
"You got a rap?"
It was no. No, I'm not Jesu. I'm not doing that. I'm not drunk enough. He said C9 was almost squishy first killer in Torment.
That's wild.
First
killer was like the original young gun.
But if you remember, there is bad blood. There seems to be between first killer and squishy. So,
right.
Oh man, that would have been a nutty lineup though. JRE Cycle, no, you will not be getting any rapping from me. As I told Jesu, I was one of 3 white kids on my basketball team in high school, and I learned very quickly that I did not have the gift of putting words in a rhyme over a beat. Not my thing.
Well, I'm nearly 40 years old, and I still haven't learned. I'm gonna keep trying.
Oh no, you just, there's some things in life you just go, nah, I'm good. I don't need to do that.
Leave that to the experts.
Yes, leave that to the experts for sure. Oh man. Well, do you got anything else you really want to talk about? I don't think I do.
No, I'm glad we kept it like that format. We're still trying to figure out, right? And I think we had a really good just conversation with it. We didn't have any drilling points or anything we're trying to like get out of him, anybody. And we keep coming with these great stories and these great conversations. And that would have been a conversation we could have just had, on the fly, just hanging out with, sitting on a back porch. And that's the style that I love. So being able to do that with someone who has a knowledge base or something cool to like share with everyone is what this is all about for me. Like, I'm enjoying these interviews more than being able to sit here and digest them with you and then go back and listen to them again. This is good content right here. I'm not gonna lie.
This is. I'm enjoying it. This is very, like you said, good conversations. But yeah, with no real Rocket League competition to talk about this past week, I know a lot of the pros are out there on the West Coast servers. TorDad mentioned it. I have seen tweets about that basically NA ranked right now is another level because you have a lot of top players that are playing on these servers right now. So
especially with the reset, I bet they're all at like GC3 just trying to
yeah, I could only imagine right now. Neo, I will get to coaching you. I promise. I have definitely let that slip, and we will get on that. But Tomlet not going to be able to make it tonight, so we're going to push our winter major spectacular to next Monday, where we are going to break down the teams that are playing, our predictions, and we're going to get our senior analyst in here, Tomlet, to give us his predictions, because I mean, he's pretty spot on with the way he sees this stuff. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Tomlet's perspective is always one that I will hold in high regard when it comes to Rocket League. He not only goes and digs and digs and digs for the information, but he's able to digest it and like spit it back out in a calculated way, which makes, and hopefully we're able to get some good insights from him, or at least have some fun conversation. If nothing else, we're good at that next week. So I'm looking forward to talking with Tom.
I agree. We don't have anybody lined up next week right now. If you have any good ideas, please let us know. Shoot me a tweet at Mr. Hoosier, Mr. Hoosier TTV, or at Brucket, and let us know. Tag somebody if you want us to try and reach out and get them on the podcast. We'd love to talk with any players or just any coaches or any dads out there, that Rocket League dads of pros that have some cool stories to share. But Bucket, you got anything else?
No, it was a blast again. I appreciate everyone coming by, listening to us in the VOD or whatever. However you see us, look for more ways to find us. That's what we're working on right now, trying to get these things out there in other atmospheres, whether it's the YouTubes or just a purely auditory place like a actual podcast. But we're working on getting more mediums for it.
Yes, we are definitely doing that. We appreciate you guys as always. Quick one tonight, but be sure to catch us back here next week, Monday, for our Winter Major Spectacular, and we'll break everything down then. But as always, we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next time.